Landman here. I study how people build financial ground and how it washes away when they're not looking. Most people believe they know where their money goes. Not approximately specifically. They carry a rough mental model of their spending, and that model feels accurate because it was built from memory, and memory is confident even when it is wrong. Ask someone to estimate their monthly spending in five categories: housing, food, transportation, entertainment, miscellaneous, and they will give you numbers that add up to something plausible. Then pull the actual bank statements and the credit card records for the same period and compare. In study after study, the gap between perceived spending and actual spending is not small. The average person underestimates their discretionary spending by between 20 and 40%, not because they are dishonest, because the brain maintains a spending narrative that is optimistic by design. This is the perception problem at the heart of financial behavior. You cannot manage what you cannot accurately measure. And most people are not measuring, they are remembering. And memory, when it comes to money, is a story we tell ourselves that tends to feature the intentional purchases and quietly omit the frictionless ones. The subscription that debits invisibly. The delivery that felt like a necessity in the moment. The impulse purchase that didn't register as a decision because it required no physical act, just a tap, a click, a confirmation that arrived while the attention was elsewhere. These are the invisible transactions that live in the gap between what you think you spend and what you actually spend. The compass test is not a budget. I want to be clear about that distinction because budgeting and the compass test are solving different problems. A budget is a plan for where money should go. The compass test is a diagnostic for where money actually went. You run a budget forward projecting intention. You run the compass test backward reading the record. And the record, unlike the plan, does not lie. Here is how the compass test works in practice. You pull every transaction from the last 90 days' bank statements, all credit cards, digital payment records, cash estimates were relevant. You sort every transaction into one of four categories. The first category is ground spending that builds or maintains a permanent asset or a productive capacity. Mortgage principal, retirement contribution, skill development that directly increases earning power, health maintenance that preserves productive capacity. These are plantings. They grow something. The second category is maintenance spending required to sustain current life function at its baseline. Utilities, groceries at a functional level, basic transportation costs, essential insurance. These are necessary. They don't grow, but they hold the ground stable. The third category is comfort spending on quality of life that goes beyond functional baseline without building an asset. Better food than necessary, entertainment, travel, aesthetic upgrades. These are not wrong, but they are the category where the soil most commonly erodes without awareness. And the fourth category is signal spending, whose primary value is visibility to others. Status maintenance, visible upgrades, brand premiums paid not for quality, but for recognition. These are the weeds. Now, the controversial observation. The financial advice industry almost universally treats comfort and signal spending as a moral category. The advice to cut the avocado toast is a moral judgment dressed as financial advice. It implies that the problem is self-indulgence, that the fix is character, and that the person who is financially stuck is stuck because they lack the virtue to stop enjoying things. This is the wrong analysis, and it actively prevents people from addressing the actual problem. Comfort spending is not a moral failure. It is a measurement failure. You cannot reduce what you cannot see. And most people cannot see their comfort spending clearly because the system that processes their payments is specifically designed to reduce the friction and therefore the visibility of every transaction. The compass test does not ask you to stop spending on comfort. It asks you to see it clearly, in full, without the optimistic distortion of the spending narrative your brain has constructed. Because once the number is specific and actual rather than estimated, and remembered, the decision about how much comfort spending to carry becomes a real decision, made with real information, not a budget constraint imposed from outside, a choice made from inside with accurate data. Let's run the numbers on what the compass test typically reveals. In a household spending $3,500 per month on non-fixed costs, the compass test breakdown tends to look something like this. Ground spending, between $200 and $400 monthly retirement contributions at the minimum, minimal skill investment. Maintenance spending, roughly $1,200 to $1,500 groceries, utilities, gas. Comfort spending, frequently the largest single category at $1,200 to $1,600 monthly dining, entertainment, delivery, travel, subscriptions, aesthetic upgrades. Signal spending, often between $200 and $500 monthly brand premiums, visible upgrades, social dining above the functional category. The ratio that most surprises people is not the comfort number alone. It is the comfort plus signal number as a percentage of total discretionary spending. In most households running this test honestly, comfort and signal together account for between 55 and 70% of all non-fixed spending. And ground spending, the category that actually compounds, represents less than 15%. The compass is pointing in the wrong direction. Not by a small margin, by a significant one. Landman's rule after running the compass test is not to eliminate comfort. It is to rebalance the ratio deliberately. A target of 30% ground spending within discretionary dollars is achievable for most households without meaningful reduction in actual quality of life, because a significant portion of comfort spending, when made visible, turns out to be habitual rather than intentional. Not chosen, just continued. The delivery that was ordered because ordering was frictionless. The subscription that persisted because canceling required a phone call. The brand premium that was paid because switching required a decision and the default was familiar. When these are made visible through the compass test, the decision about whether to continue them is finally made with accurate information. Some survive. Many don't need to. And the ground spending ratio rises not through deprivation, but through clarity. The compass doesn't tell you where to go. It tells you where you are. And knowing where you're actually, specifically, without the comfortable distortion of the spending narrative, is the starting point for every meaningful change in financial direction. Look at the compass. Not at your estimate of where it's pointing. At where it is actually pointing. If this made you want to run the compass test on your last 90 days, subscribe. That's all. Just subscribe. New ground here every week. Landman here.